Hey aspirants, welcome to Inside Psycan Initiative. The first topic for today is related to social media again. That is, you can see here that it's about blue collar influencers. That is, those people who are working in the profession of, let's say, electricians, masons, and plumbers. They have of late turned into influencers by recording their daily activities and producing it on social media. So what is the importance of this parameter and the other aspects? We'll just look into it. So blue collar workforce includes the people who are associated with many ground level activities, for example, in infrastructure and others. So, when these influencers are sharing their daily work on social media, they have garnered a lot of followers who are especially from their own profession and the others as well. So, this has now become a new genre of content creation where in the past 1 year more than 1 lakh posts have been generated. So, this is according to a media platform that keeps a track on trends on social media. So many of these blue collar workforce are planning to monetize this presence by collaborating with brands that sell products that they use on a daily basis like cables, switchboards, pipes, etc. So they are looking to collaborate with big brands like this, but companies which are hosting these brands are yet to respond for this demand. So if you see how this is relevant for us is for a blue collar workforce, this would be an additional source of income, adding to the financial security of the family and also improving the standard of living. So when it comes to companies which have taken up the support or given support, Zindal Stainless is an example which has created a campaign called Zung warrior. Zung basically is a term associated with rusting of iron, and it is celebrating heroes of social change, that is, who have had a major role in infrastructure building of the nation. So, Zung warriors, it is addressing various social issues that are dealt with people of the blue collar workforce, and here in this campaign blue collar workforce are the protagonists. So this is as a part of their CSR activities. So now these warriors, or we can talk about the blue collar employees, are trying to find some viable alternatives so that it adds to their employment. So for companies, the reality is that they usually try to collaborate with celebrities who are having a large fan following, which includes many actors from the movie industry and like others. You would have seen many cement brands popularizing their product using actors of the movie industry. But many of the blue collar workers feel that when they work day in and day out in a product that is more close to their employment, they need to be the popular faces who can market their product better, as it adds a lot of authenticity to the branding and the product that they are selling. Hence, they are marketing themselves as a viable alternative to celebrity endorsed products in this blue collar industry. So, some good examples also exist where some conscientious influences are there. For example, you can see the image of Sheikh Khwaja here, who has been in the blue collar industry for like from 4 to 5 years. He tells that he has got a recent offer from a gambling app to promote their game. So he tells that I have many followers, which runs into thousands of numbers and lakhs of viewers on a daily basis. And he feels that it would be irresponsible on his side to promote an app that puts families at a huge risk. So this shows how ethical and conscientiously many of these influencers are treading their path consciously, unlike many of them who are educated and are also knowing the idea of what is right and what is wrong. So roping in these kind of influencers will go a long way in endorsing products which need a lot of authenticity, and rather than simply hiring some celebrities who wouldn't be able to do justice to this ground. So how this topic is relevant for us in our GS papers, you can see that in GS paper 1 Indian society topic we have caste based occupations or caste based division of occupations. So many of these occupations are also based on or set up in a hierarchical notion based on dignity of labor that they carry. So these kind of social media influencers who are working from blue collar sector can generate a lot of awareness among the public that without them, the infrastructural growth we visualize for modern India would be impossible, and it would attach a lot of dignity to the work that they are doing, thus eradicating the caste based discrimination of various employment occupations. At the same time, in GS paper 3, with this idea of dignity of labor also would go with recruitment or higher employment in this region, because if it is glorified on the social media, many of the people would feel that this is a good job to take up, though we know that this glorification is just a standstill agreement, or let's say it is just temporary in nature. It is a reality that many of the professions these days do not enjoy the status that they require in the society because they are still not in the limelight, and social media definitely is helping them to get the attention they need and create more humane employment opportunities for them. At the same time, in corporate social responsibility also, we can give the example of Zindal Stainless in roping in with such celebrities. And when it comes to GS paper 4 ethics also, we see that it has a lot of importance with respect to one's ethical behavior online, and also how social media can be used to deepen the idea of democracy and deepen the idea of one's own identity. So, the next topic is about why Indian cities need behavioral change officers. So, this editorial was from New Indian Express, and it had a very interesting notion to be discussed, which would be relevant for us in paper 2 governance. It would be very important in ethics and also in various of our essays and also in GS3. We'll see how it's going to be relevant. So, Indian cities at crossroad is the first topic here. That is, by the year 2030, we'll see that 40% of Indian population will be in urban areas. So when this is the reality here, millions of Indians will live, work and interact in the urban setup. So this is only going to make the challenges more complex, which now includes infrastructure, which includes climate change. Intensifying these challenges is related to urban flooding. We can talk about heat waves negatively impacting urban infrastructure, which directly impact people, and indirectly it also induces migration from places where the disasters are impacting. So when this is the reality in urban areas, what we need is resilient urban planning. So, what goes into resilient urban planning is the question now. So, here traditional policy making, it includes, or traditional idea for urban development includes policy plus law plus investment. We believe that if we do this much, urban development would be possible. But the modern idea tells that we usually overlook the most important component here, that is behavioral change among the public. So, behavioral change, without achieving this, we would not be able to further the goals of urban development. So, in this parameter, every individual behavior matters, is what the author is telling. So, if we want to impact the sustainability and functionality of urban areas, individual behaviors matter a lot. For example, let's take waste management. If everybody in a city segregate waste properly and dispose them responsibly, how all it is going to impact? You can imagine that it's going to reduce the pollution, solid waste pollution. It supports a lot of efficiency in handling waste, and ultimately leading to a successful waste management strategy and better utilization of resources as well. You can take the example of public transportation as well. If every member of the society prefers public transport over private vehicles, we can definitely visualize an experience where the city's air quality would increase. So the idea of an individual behavioral change is very well segregated or very well highlighted here. Now comes behavior of public service providers or those who provide the services. Here, the example given is of police officers who are one of the first phases to deal with the public. So, empathy driven community policing we can talk about. So, engaging with communities to build trust, using non-violent conflict resolution mechanisms, reducing biases within the police forces. When all of this is done, the kind of trust that public will have on the police officers would increase, and definitely it would make a better impact on conflict resolution. Let's say we also talk about public transport now, just like how we have discussed from individual behavior perspective. Those who provide public transport facilities, if they voluntarily follow safety protocols, that maintaining airbag system, or let's say having a better quality of emission exhaust that the vehicle puts through, that is getting frequent emission checks done, proactively addressing gender based violence within the public transport system, let's say by installing panic buttons and the others. This behavior from the side of public service providers definitely would have a long way in people adopting public transport rather than blaming that public transport is not safer anymore. So in the reality, if you see, many of the factors which we rope in to bring behavioral changes in the public is about simplistic information. That is, we rope in certain important personalities and try to give education and other ideas in the form of advertisements and awareness campaigns. But this is very insufficient when it comes to driving the behavioral change that is required to bring transformative impacts at the ground level. So this requires a behavioral change toolkit. So what is that toolkit? We'll quickly look into it now. So behavioral change toolkit basically focuses on three main components, that is incentives, it focuses on social norms, and it also focuses on priming. Right? So urban messaging, that is when we want to send messages in the urban spaces especially, it needs to be more nuanced, more detailed and data driven approach, especially to influence behavior at both individual and systemic approach. For this, you can take the example of Indore. The city of Indore grappled with the problem of solid waste management, but they have done various measures which include behavioral changes, which has now made Indore one of the cleanest cities in the country. And the viral song, that is the Kachra song, was adopted in other parts of Madhya Pradesh as well after its grand success in Indore. So this viral song is helping a lot to change the behavior of the public and has changed the whole context of Indore from a filthy city to a cleanest city in the country. So the new role is needed, that is being discussed by the author here, is Chief Behavioral Officer. Okay, it needs to be embedded within the urban local bodies, very closely monitoring along with municipal commissioners to integrate behavioral insights into all facets of urban governments. So this person should be supported by a group of people who will be called behavioral fellows. For example, in New Orleans of USA, they have done this already. So what would be the impact of this? It would establish a new role for which there would be separate budgetary allocation, and it would be having many skilled team members, and investment would be done in data driven model of creating awareness, utilizing technology platforms to rope in citizens and encouraging their participation. So as a result, what will be the outcome of this? The outcome will be that there will be significant return on investment, improve in various service deliveries that the public usually receives, promotes sustainable citizen behavior, and at the end of the day, improve the quality of life of the people. So, city governments, urban planners, and stakeholders should embrace this approach, is what the author is suggesting here. And when it comes to application of this topic in our GS papers, we can rightly use it in GS paper 1, urbanization topic. What lags in urban governance? One of them is change in behavior of the public. When it comes to GS paper 2, governance, directly we have a topic related to 73rd and 74th Amendment Act. Even in that, we can talk about giving autonomy to create officers like them in the urban local areas would make a lot of difference. When it comes to GS paper 3 as well, we can talk about solid waste management and the need for behavioral change in it. You can quote this as a suggestion. At the same time, in GS paper 4, attitude or behavioral change, we can rightly discuss about a behavioral change officer when it comes to bringing lot of changes in the society. It may be related to corruption, it may be related to climate change, or even simple acts of solid waste management. It would go a long way in shaping the attitudes of the public, and the government should take a responsibility for this. So, coming to the next topic, this was again Getting What You Want, an article from Economic Times, basically spoke about the role of uh, happiness in our life. So basically, it started with a small example or a story. It was a story of a 70-year-old business magnate who has been very successful in his life, has created a lot of wealth, and has retired from his work now. He is seen basking in the sun, enjoying his vacations and enjoying the sunlight in the cold, breezy day. So when he is enjoying the sunlight like this, he sees a youngster, okay, a young man is walking around in the beach here, again enjoying the sunlight. So this elderly person gives a suggestion to the youngsters who is barely around 20 years old that see, this is the age for you to work so that you create wealth enough, so that once in your life you create your wealth, you'll not be having any repentance to spend money, nor you'll have any insecurity whether to enjoy your life or not. So first, when you're young, create wealth that you want to generate, create a lot of value in your life, then go and enjoy your life. So when conflicted like this youngster tells that how is it going to be different? You have created wealth and you are enjoying life when you are 70-year old. I am enjoying the life even now itself because I believe that happiness is now and not postponing it to any other day in the future. So this story, based on this article of Getting What You Want, is based on the premises of what exactly is the meaning of happiness. I think most of you are able to recall that this was a previous year question in 2020, 2015. That is, what is happiness? What does happiness mean to you? So, this brings us to a question of whether happiness is in the journey of reaching a destination, or happiness is the destination itself. So, there are two major notions to it, whether happiness is the journey or destination. Let's say we discuss the topic of happiness as a destination. That is, we all have a goal in life and we believe that reaching this goal is what makes us happy. So, happiness in this case is an end goal. That is, when we reach this goal, we'll be happy. So, it's a kind of final milestone that we are going to reach to enjoy what this whole feeling is for us. So what is the advantage of it? Till you reach this goal, you'll always be ambitious, you'll be motivated, you'll be inspired to keep moving in your life, so that that end goal is always attractive to you. So at the same time, joy lies in reaching the destination, right? So it is reaching the place where you always wanted to be. So just take the example of a UPSC aspirant as well. For all of us, getting the name in the finalist and becoming a UPSC or becoming a civil servant is the ultimate goal, and we all have postponed many of our gratifications and happiness because we want it all to be stored on the final day, that is on the day we see our name in the finalist. So there is nothing wrong in this because it keeps you motivated all the time, but over a period of time you'll realize that we might be remain dissatisfied because it leads to something that we call hedonic treadmill. That is, once you achieve this happiness, your goals will be higher. That is, let's say your name came in the UPSC finalist, then you determined that I need to be getting the first position even in the training level. So once you achieve that, you feel that this year's best officer I should be. Or let's say your goals keep on postponing. It's not like once your goal is achieved you get the happiness there. So once your goal is just going on postpone, when will you feel happy? When will you be satisfied with your life? That is the question that the author asks here. That is, happiness leads to, when you feel that happiness is the destination, it is the hedonic treadmill in which you might not be happy ever. On the other hand, if you consider happiness as a journey, that is, happiness lies in the lies in the journey, not in the destination. We believe that joy is in the process of living. That is the process of living. Every minute gives you the happiness. So every moment is filled with many challenges. We grow every moment, we try to experience every moment, and it is in all this that we need to search for happiness. So this idea also aligns with what Buddhism tells when the idea goes that living in the present. So it is nothing but happiness in the journey. Again, when you take the example of an aspirant's life, we can talk about uh, enjoying every single test series that you solve, preparing for the exam to get the good knowledge, that experience that this whole process gives to you. It comes with a lot of maturity that many of the people of your own age in other fields might not be having. So this process itself, if you don't enjoy, if you postpone the success, then might be we are not in the right path. So how do balance between the two is the importance here. How do we balance between happiness as the journey and happiness as the destination? We should realize that it is not absolute. That is, we cannot tell happiness comes only from destination and only from journey. That is, both are not absolute. So goals are essential, as they provide us direction. They lead us to the area that we have to be ultimately reaching. At the same time, journey offers moments of joy. It enables us lot of opportunities to self discover ourselves. So one should set goals, that is very much needed for our life. Then celebrate small milestones that you have achieved in this path. At the same time, once we practice gratitude, this whole concept of happiness, whether it is just destination or journey, would be immaterial. So Rabindranath Tagore once popularly said that the butterfly counts not months but moments and has enough time. So where this would be relevant in our answers, you would be knowing it that in GS paper 4 ethics, happiness and the goal of life, in these topics the idea would be relevant. And in essay, if we get this as a topic in itself, whether happiness is the journey or destination, this discussion would be relevant for us. So the last topic for today's discussion is the good doll. That is, this was a news article on the social media handles of Braj channel. So if you can see here, it is a program that is sponsored by Aditya Birla Group, Be a Force for Good. So this is about a topic that is relevant for us in various GS papers. We'll see one by one. So this initiative is started by Suhas Ramegowda and Sunita Ramegowda, who are founders of The Good Doll. So Sunita Ramegowda in this video is found to be telling that as a child, the only option she had to play with the doll is the Western notion of toys or the Western version of doll. So it comes in various biased idea of a fair toned skin, chiseled body, very fit and always wearing good clothes. So this kind of idea, when a child associate itself with, they would always be thinking about becoming one like this. So she wanted to create a toy or a doll which is body positive, which doesn't discriminate between various colors, and has a lot of Indianness in it, in the attire it wears, and also in the way it is appearing as a toy. So with this conception, both of these duos started the Good Doll project. So they wanted to make this whole doll sustainable as well, because most of the dolls and the toys, and we can say the whole market of toys that we talk about, are imported, and the products, the basic raw material that goes into it is plastic. And we know what happens with the end of this plastic. Most of these are not durable toys. Within a span of 1 or 2 years, they would be broken and would end up in landfill. At the same time, we can see that many of the cases, there is a lot of wastage of textiles. So textiles also end up in the same landfill. So this organization talks about collaborating between, or trying to have a link between, this textile that goes into a landfill and the toys. So what they have done is, they try to recycle unwanted textiles or unused products like cloth, and recycle it, and try to create dolls out of them in such a manner that they are very much relatable to the idea of Indianness. So these toys are very much affordable, come at a very lesser rate, and it's practiced in the Nilgiri hills of Tamil Nadu. So who go into making of these toys? It is a self-help group based on women labor. So this initiative is tackling with so many problems that are associated with solid waste management and the toy industry. So where this would be relevant for us, if you take for example GS paper 1. So many of the time we have the idea of stereotypes, we have the idea of biases. So, if you want to counter these that are deep entrenched in the Indian society, we need to create toys and games with which children associate with and learn the real values of human lives, rather than being molded by these stereotypes. GS paper 2, governance. When it comes to governance as well, self-help groups can be trained in recycling wastes in this format and act as a meaningful change to the whole society. In paper 3, solid waste management, or we simply very randomly give the example of resource utilization called reduce, reuse, recycle. But this alone would not be fetching us much marks. But if you give example of this good toy initiative, good doll initiative, it would fetch you definitely some extra marks, which is a practical example of reduce, reuse, and recycle. So corporate social responsibilities, when you want to write any question on this, try to suggest initiatives like the good doll, which actually make a lot of difference, rather than simply telling invest in education, create hospitals and all of them. No doubt they are very much important, but initiatives like the good doll is the one that needs so much support from the CSR, which will definitely go a long way in bottom up approach of development and solid waste management. At the same time, GS paper 4, we can talk about role of family and role of education institutions in shaping attitudes of the public, or in shaping ethical values. In this context, giving toys to play with which are body positive, which are gender neutral. These toys even have male dolls, which is a very rare thing when it comes to the Western society. So this kind of examples would definitely make your answer very much effective, as you're countering multiple dimensions of gender equality, you're talking about body positivity. So these are some issues that the younger children are facing, and using a small just intervention through the dolls that the kids play with, we can definitely make a lot of changes in their life. So try to quote them in your answers, and also it would be very much relevant in initiatives like this, where people who are well intentioned, that is Suhas Ramegowda and Sunita Ramegowda, you can quote them as leaders who make difference in the lives of the people. So, with this, we end today's ICANN initiative. Meet you tomorrow with more such examples. Thank you.